Welcome back. Today I want to talk about getting fit, specifically timelines for the different adaptations that we're going to seek to create in our bodies. And I published an article on Monday called Getting Bike Fit. And this kind of builds on that. I'll link up that article in the YouTube comments for you. To kick off, I want to talk about and read for you something that I wrote for you if you're seeking to get fit, which is just a general outline of how it's been for me over the last 2 years. And there's a few lessons I want to touch on. So it's been 2 years since I put my plan together. Revisiting the quoted chart with Monday's article, the goal is to help those of you who wish to get fit. So I'll link up that tweet in the comments too. And what that chart was is I took a snapshot of where I was at a moment in time 2 years ago. So in that case, it was my bike fitness and where I thought my different break points were and what my plan was for addressing those break points. And regardless of your sport, it's a really useful thing to do is just write down on a single piece of paper where you're at, your key benchmarks, what your approach is going to be, and how you propose to improve yourself. It'll be handy down the road if things work out, as well as learning from things that you got incorrect. And one of the things I got incorrect, I touch on in this note. At the beginning, I expected to quickly ramp to 20 hours a week to meet my goals. Now, that's a level that the top amateurs are able to train at consistently week in, week out. And in my loading videos, I talked about how that didn't work out for me the way I expected. My body just wasn't able to handle the training. So what was I able to handle? Well, my average across the period was 14 hours a week, which is a huge commitment for somebody that's stepping up to endurance sport, but it was much lower than a commitment I knew I could make when I was a younger athlete. So I feel it was a really good deal in terms of the bang for my buck, the return on time invested. I invested less time than I thought. And another interesting thing that I touch on in my loading series that you'll find in the playlist is variable loading. So that 2 hours is not every day. There are some days that are bigger days, 4 to 5 hours, and there are a lot of days that are around 1 hour mark, my easy days. And the value of our training comes from two things: the consistency of ourselves, so the compound loading, but also something that we don't see, the adaptation, those easier days. And so creating a life where you can have these challenging days and then having the emotional maturity to back off so you absorb those days is really where the action's at. So now timelines. So let's think about the different types of adaptations that we're going to want to bring into our body. There's a couple that get a lot of press in social media. I'm often seeing different protocols for interval sessions, zone 5 training, VO2 training, 4 by 5 minute interval sessions up in zone 5. These red zone, these really hard sessions. Now the timelines for benefiting from those sessions are really minutes and hours. It doesn't take a lot of that to get a response. And those responses happen relatively quickly. And so they can be quite encouraging. You can feel like you're getting fitter. Another type of adaptation, strength. And if you want to get really strong, put on muscle and really become kind of jacked, the commitment I tell people is it's 100 weeks, 3 by 1 hour a day. So it's about 300 hours for that type of adaptation. And you also need to get your nutrition right, because if you're seeking to promote anabolic growth, you need to be fueling it. And again, strength training is another adaptation that has a really good bang for your buck in terms of you can put on size and you can certainly put on strength relatively quickly, and it doesn't take a massive time investment. Now, the third is getting fit, and it's getting fit in a sense of becoming a competitive endurance athlete, competitive amateur. Now, those timelines are much longer. They're measured in thousands of hours. The green zone training, the bulk of where I recommend you put your week, even if you're focused on health and fitness, these low-end aerobic adaptations. And we'll be touching on those benefits because I had a really good question from one of my teammates who is a very hard worker. And she was pretty much said, I hear you on the zone 2, but tempo, threshold, and hard training is really what's brought me to the athlete I am today. So why should I back off? What are the benefits of that? What's in it for me? We'll touch on that in another series that's be coming soon. But so thinking about timelines, it's really helpful because it'll help you manage where you approach things and get things right. So those red zone and hard adaptations, they're quick and they don't take much time. So you don't need to be dosing those all that frequently, and you don't need to be dosing them all that largely. You don't need to be doing a whole bunch of that. And to put that into scale for you, in the minutes of my week, that's maybe 1% of the minutes in my week, my heart rate will actually go up that high. And so you have to create the volume overall first before you're going to be able to do a whole bunch of that training. And even if you have the capacity for a whole bunch of that training, you're probably going to find that you'll do much better using a lower intensity because you'll be able to spend more time in the zone. And what I mean by that is a tempo intensity. And that's an intensity where many people place their endurance training, and that's a mistake. Go easier, significantly easier if you're used to training hard like my teammate. So that's just touching on timelines and where to allocate your time. In thinking about your protocol, the key lesson for me, there's actually 2 lessons. The key lesson for me is think about a protocol, whatever you like, that's going to get you to 1,000 aerobic hours safely and as quickly as possible, because that's going to give you something to work with. It's going to widen the green zone. It's going to widen your range of training choices, because when we start, we really just have one choice, on or off. The other thing is, if you're a hard worker and you're a consistent worker, I promise you, you underestimate the benefit of your easy days, of backing off, reducing the stress of your entire day, ideally 2 of those days back to back every week, and letting your body adapt and absorb the work you're doing so you can take yourself to a new level. The idea being to improve, to get faster. So compounding, and be aware that we're all going to underestimate the benefit of what we don't see, those easy days, because those hard sessions are salient, so we're going to remember them, but it might be the things we're not remembering that are really creating our gains. Thanks for listening.